Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is Ship Updates. Now, of course, the big news this week is the Prospector is out, the Misc Prospector, which is a small one-man mining ship. Looks like designed primarily around planetary mining and also able to mine asteroids in space. Now, they were talking a little bit about it on RTV and they said, as procedural planets became like a real thing that they could do, they realized that having a planetary miner would be a good idea, and so that's kind of one of the drivers behind creating this small mining ship. So of course there's a huge design post. There's going to be Q&A post. There's a Q&A thread right now. I'll put the link in the description. But there's going to be Q&A design posts on Wednesday and Friday of next week. So that is something to look forward to get your questions in about the Misc Prospector. The ship is actually looking pretty good. Not my cup of tea, but still, I mean, it is pretty good looking. It looks like it takes the better parts of the Freelancer and the better parts of the Reliant and kind of marries them together. So it's actually a pretty cool looking ship. The one thing I did notice is that there's no even minor defensive armament on the ship whatsoever, at least not that I could see. And there's nothing on the little fact card or fact sheet for the ship, which I thought was a little bit odd because even the little Hull A has a couple of guns on it, right? The small cargo ship. So that was a little bit bizarre. Now, there was also some hints today, because last week and the week before, they were hinting at the two ships going out for concept that nobody knows about. And it seemed like they were kind of hinting on RTV today that those ships would be profession specific. But if I recall correctly, going all the way back to, I think, January, Ben was talking about the small profession ships, and he was like talking about the small mining ship, but also the small salvage ship and the small repair ship, right? I mean, I'm kind of remembering that correctly. So I guess maybe they accidentally let the cat out of the bag. Like, I was thinking when they were mentioning these two ships, like, no, isn't there supposed to be a small miner and a small salvage ship? But I didn't want to kind of, put that out there unless I was reasonably sure about it, or at least, something I was like, I think this is actually a thing. But I think that these two ships that we're not hearing about are actually the small repair ship and the small salvage ship. But I guess we'll get more details on that in the future. One of the things that we did get in regards to future concepts is what's coming up is quote-unquote Drake things. So whether that's two Drake ships in a row, like I originally suspected, I believe was in last week's episode, or whether it's just one ship and then something else will come along. Chances are by this time next month we could be looking at concept art for either the Drake Dragonfly or the Drake Buccaneer, which is good news for those of you who have criminal aspirations in the Star Citizen universe, or those of you who just want a fast, nimble fighter. It could be very interesting. Now, of course, I'm following the obviously the Pirate Interceptor very closely, and hopefully we'll get a lot more information. I don't want to draw too many conclusions. I think I kind of have already, but it is looking very interesting. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Now, other Drake stuff going on is next week in Around the Verse, we are supposed to get a ship shape with an update on the Herald. Now, of course, the Herald has gone through some obviously radical design changes since it was originally concepted, and hopefully this new art will be something separate from the art that we've already seen, which hasn't been all that well received in the Herald subsection of the shipyard forums. So hopefully we're going to see these design changes that a while ago Ben was talking about that him and Chris Roberts signed off on. Hopefully what we're going to see next week in ATV is possibly some of those suggestions incorporated into the Herald and maybe brought in some ways a little bit closer to the original concept art. But that, of course, is yet to be seen, but next week we should find out. Also, next week we should find out if the Reliant and the Starfarer Gemini are going to be in 2.4, which is going to be pushed to the PTU hopefully next week. But it looks like the Starfarer Gemini and the Reliant might make it in. Now, of course, the Starfarer Gemini is the military variant of the Starfarer. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, how I thought they weren't going to be working on variants and all that. But you know that this ship was being worked on in the UK. The Starfarer Gemini is going to be in Squadron 42, so it's reasonable to assume that they finished both, like doing the original Starfarer and doing the Gemini. So whether either version of the Starfarer is going to be flyable is not known yet, but the Starfarer Gemini might very well make it into 2.4, at least on the PTU next week. So something to look forward to. And of course, the Reliant, the base Reliant, I believe it's called the Core with a K, is going to be possibly in the 2.4 update next week, at least if you have PTU access. Now, other notes, some concept art has made it out regarding the interiors of the Caterpillar, which kind of got out into the subscriber forums, and I'm sure is currently making its way out on the interwebs now. But basically, that's all concept art looking at the possible interior look of the Caterpillar. Now, whether or not that's actually going to pan out, whether or not that's going to be exactly how it looks in the final version, I guess is still up in the air. But the Caterpillar is looking pretty darn good. Now, whether the ship is in full production right now, I think they're still kind of working on getting everything together before they go into full production, but it looks like that could be starting relatively soon. Now, the Caterpillar was also part of, I think it was, what was it, in July or September, Ben and Sandy were saying on RTV that, was it the Xeon Scout, the Caterpillar, and the Banu Merchantman were all going to be going in next well, what was it? The Caterpillar, they were doing some of the original, Randy Vasquez was doing some of the original work on the interior, kind of mapping it all out as early as last fall. And then, what was it, the Banu Merchantman was supposed to start at some point this year. I believe, if not, they were originally saying that it would probably start in January. But of course that hasn't happened yet. But of course we have gotten the Xeon Scout like they said they were going to do. And we have now gotten, or at least the Caterpillar is moving forward, which only leaves the Banu Merchantman of those three ships left out. So we have not yet heard in regards to the Banu Merchantman when it's looking to go into production. But hopefully at some point in the near future we will find out about that, because that is the last of the three ships that they were talking about that was supposed to go in this year, and hopefully Banu Merchantman owners will get an update at some point. CCU downgrades, no real updates there. Org 2.0, same thing. Also, there was one other bizarre thing that happened on RTV today, which was Ben was talking about Orion variants. Orion, the large mining ship, and there being variants, and that the version that we got was the refining variant. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely mystified by this, but were there really going to be Orion variants? I don't remember any of that. I don't know. Like, I was sitting there scratching my head thinking, well, the Orion is the big mining ship that doesn't really require a variant, really. It's a ship built for mining, So I'm not too sure what he meant, or if he was just mistaking that for another ship. Sometimes that happens, with the Xeon Scout Reliant thing and previously. And there was, at one point, on one RTV when he was talking about, well, that's why the Reclaimer has the large cargo bay, so it can store all the ore that it mines in there. And so I don't know, because he was specifically talking about a refining variant of the Orion, and that's the one that was sold, and I just do not remember that at all. So that was pretty much it for this week. Once again, not that much information, but with the Prospector being out, there's obviously a lot of stuff to look up. There's of course going to be a Q&A thread. I'll put the link in the description below, and you should definitely get your questions in there, but you should also enter that contest to see if you can win yourself a free Orion, even if you're not interested in mining. Possibly something you can melt to help use it to 300, what was it, $325 when it originally sold. So $325 might put you a fair bit of a way to, I don't know, like a small Corvette maybe. Anyways, that's it for ship updates. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.